everybody. Today I'm going to do something a little bit different. We're going to call this red ink, but it really is kind of a little bit more specialized for people who do family history and genealogy. So I'm going to go ahead and ask that if you're a writing client or whatever, and you're looking for writing advice, this is going to have a little bit about stuff in here about research, but it's more geared towards the genealogical type focused, I guess, person who might use AI. And the whole reason I'm doing this is because I taught a class earlier today, and it was requested that I go ahead and share this on my YouTube channel so that some people and some individuals can access it anytime they want. So I'm going to preface it with that, and in so going forward, this is what this is. So if you're not interested, go ahead and click out. I won't be offended. Otherwise, if you're here for AI, how to use AI and research specifically when it's family search related, this is your video. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. This is just a little presentation I used, quickly created using Canva. Thank you so much, Canva. I love them so much. All right, so the first thing you guys need to know about AI is what it really is. I'm not going to tell you not to use it. I'm not telling you to use it. I'm just telling you that when you choose to use it, there are specific things that you need to be aware of when you are working with AI in general, and then specifically inside of these types of research tools like FamilySearch, Ancestry.com, and I think there's another one that a lot of genealogists like to use. But so anyway, I'm just here to make sure that you use AI correctly and wisely so that you don't get confused and that it doesn't muck up your research. So the first thing that you need to know about AI is what it is. And a lot of people who do family history may not know that AI is not artificially intelligent. What it is it's a large language model. It's built on it learned on, I would say, millions of books that were pirated actually and used to teach the language model to find patterns and find, I guess, do predictive type generations and language generations based on those predictive patterns that they found and it learned on inside of that gathering of information. Inside of different tools or I guess apps or whatever, like FamilySearch, they will create a language model that is based solely on what is inside that app. So when you're inside of those things, they have like kind of like a closed loop or a closed system so that the AI is not going outside into the World Wide Web and the open AI to find information. So know that when you're working inside of things like FamilySearch and Ancestry, and there's an AI assistant that you can implement, that it is inside that system that they've closed off the AI. But you always want to check on the terms and conditions and use of that tool inside that system to be sure that it is in fact a closed system. But what AI is doing, it's predicting language patterns. It's generating answers based on that training data. So the answers that it's giving is kind of like a hopped up search engine in a way, but it sometimes sounds confident or will supply you with information even when it's wrong. So you need to be aware of that, specifically within the FamilySearch model and Ancestry model. When it shows you a document or a citation, you want to make sure you're looking at that document and citation. And I know that FamilySearch is actually encouraging you to go in there and actually make edits when it sees, if you can see that there are certain things that are wrong. So it gives you the option of going in and editing what the AI is produced. And that is in a way to help continue to train it, but also make sure that the accuracy is correct. So just be aware that the historian is still very part of this project or these projects and these systems, and that AI is not a free thinking being. Okay. The next thing you need to know about AI is kind of like where it's helpful. So when you use AI and when you're doing any kind of work with AI, and this is speaking of outside and inside these systems, it is good for writing and summarizing. It's helping turning notes into readable or shortened summaries so that you don't have to read long swaths of text. You can go in and have it summarize and create like kind of a synopsis. It can help you draft biographies or, create summaries to help you put those into maybe documents or citations that you want to put in there. But be aware that whatever it creates, sometimes it's using a predictive text pattern. It's using predictive text patterns that are very identifiable by editors like myself. And whatever you generate in the AI, it is not copyrightable. So it's not really necessarily a good tool when you want to write a biography. So just be aware of that. It's a good tool for helping you draft things or kind of put thoughts together or help you generate ideas, but it's not a good thing to kind of like really kind of write. You really need to kind of insert your own voice and make sure that you're editing that thoroughly. um, Brainstorming research ideas. One of the things that I know that researchers and historians are looking for is constantly finding gaps between time. And sometimes it's helpful, especially with an AI, because it's predictive and it can kind of put like patterns together. It might be able to give you ideas about where to look for certain ancestors or where they might have traveled to or lived for certain periods of time, based on migration patterns or like immigration patterns or things like that, jobs, the times that what was happening in history at that time and so on. So it can help you think of those kinds of things and where to go to find information. So that's always good. It's also good at helping you find alternative spellings or locations. It can help you kind of understand what those might be. It's not going to give you facts. It's just going to help you generate ideas. It also is good at helping you explain some historical context. Say you're looking for, ideas about what it might have been like at the time that this ancestor or that ancestor was living, and it might help you generate those ideas. So that's something to think about too. And it can help with transcription. In fact, this morning I was just working with some genealogists, and that was one of the things they were talking about is inside FamilySearch. You go into simple search and it would provide a citation or a census record or something, and it was handwritten. And the AI could kind of like decipher some of that handwriting and kind of put in there what it thought it was transcribing it. And that was one of the things that the genealogical patrons was teaching them, that they can go in there and then edit that because there were mistakes that the AI was generating. It was like seeing certain words and assuming that that's what those words said, and it was wrong. But that's why they're making it editable for historians. So just be aware that that is something that's going on right now. There are some things that you should be aware of, some things that you should be things that you should be cautious about. But I want you to think of AI as a smart assistant and not necessarily a source of truth. It's not going to generate something that's a fact. It may just give you some ideas, or it might point you in the direction where you can find the facts. Okay. So the things that you should be aware of, that you should be cautious about, are these risks that I'm going to talk about. One of the risks is that AI hallucinates. It does not come up with, sometimes if there's a gap that it doesn't know, its job is to make sure that it gives the human fills in those gaps. And sometimes if it doesn't know what that gap is or what should be in there, it will make something up. So this is something that, unfortunately, some people they believe they can train out of the AI, but that there are many reports and citations that I have actually cited and have in another tool that I share with other people about how to write with AI and how to use AI to write documents and manuscripts. And in there are actual studies that have been done that show that this will never stop happening. This is something that will always happen. So false information is going to be kind of the norm when it comes to AI. You're going to get some good information, but you're also, in some instances, going to get some bad information. It will create completely false facts. So just be aware that in genealogy, and when you're a historian and you're looking for facts specifically, that is dangerous. And so you need to double check everything. Another thing that you need to be aware of is that it will create fake or misleading citations as well. So sometimes it may give you citations that don't exist or are outdated, or they don't match the claim. In fact, I know when I was doing one search in particular using AI and I asked it to cite where its sources were coming from, some of the clicks that it gave me, some of the citations it gave me were actually 404s. They were, meaning that they were like websites that no longer existed. So I couldn't use those because those citations didn't exist, and I wasn't going to use that information without having the information to back it up. So make sure that you're always double checking what the AI tells you. If you can't click it and verify it, I don't want you to trust it, especially in genealogy, right? The outdated information I already kind of spoke to, but it will miss digitized information that has just newly been uploaded. In systems like FamilySearch and stuff, I'm sure that it's constantly relearning and learning and learning. But outside in the World Wide Web, it will often miss newly digitized records. So be aware that sometimes you're not going to find everything you need. It can also rely on older interpretations of things or ignore recent corrections. And I told a story that was unrelated to research, but very much related to this particular like problem that AI does. Is I recently saw it was like a reel, and there was this lady, and she sells makeup at like Sephora or Ulta or something, and she's been doing this for like 10 years or whatever. And she said that she's having a problem with new customers that are coming in, and they're actually coming in with like ChatGPT prompts on what their makeup should be, or what colors they want, or foundations that they're interested in, or whatever. And she's having a lot of conflict with them because she'll point out that the information that they're bringing in is either outdated or fake. The AI is giving them information about a makeup brand or makeup line that is no longer even in the marketplace. So you need to be aware that sometimes it's across the board, not going to always give you the greatest information. So I want you to make sure that you're always looking for that recent information, and always go back to official genealogical databases to make sure that you're getting that real information. Okay. The next thing you should be aware of is the lack of source transparency. Unlike like FamilySearch and Ancestry, right? There's the AI doesn't, the open AI, when you go to ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity or any of these others, you're not always going to see sources that are directly linked to the information that you're being provided. So sometimes it might send you to a source that's unrelated at all. I noticed that sometimes it'll send me secondary sources or people that have written maybe a blog or something, but that blog or that article is not cited. So I can't use that. That's called a secondary source. And sometimes the AI won't even show that source clearly at all. So if you can't trace where that information is coming from, you can't use it, and you can't trust it. So make sure that you're always going back to the source, right? Like that's one of the things that I know everybody's looking for, is that they're looking for citing sources. The next thing you need to be very careful about is the safety of AI. AI needs to be locked down. And inside of FamilySearch, Ancestry, and like I said, those other kinds of programs and apps, they have locked it down and prevented it so that the open AI and all that information you share inside their system doesn't go outside or escape that system. But there are safeguards that you need to take when you're working with open AI on the World Wide Web, right? So I want you to be careful about when you use AI. You're going to use AI for writing, organizing, or brainstorming, okay? But you do not use AI as primary sources, proof of relationships, evidence of records. Like you're not going to cite ChatGPT inside of those source materials, right? So always verify, always go back and always look. But also remember, when you're uploading information or you're sharing information with the OpenAI in any situation outside of those systems, that you don't want that information to be shared into the OpenAI. You want to protect it. So you're going to make sure that your settings are set up in the OpenAI, ChatGPT, Perplexity, and so on, that you go into the settings and you make sure that you toggle off the switch that says teach the OpenAI or teach the rest of the AI. Okay. So, as some of it's worded like, do you want AI to learn from what you upload or whatever, something like that. Anyway, make sure that's all turned off. You want all of that to be locked in and kept within your own system so that you don't have things stolen from you. And yes, it will steal from you. So be careful. Additionally, genealogical conclusions must be based on reasonably exhaustive research and complete source citations. This is straight out of the horse's mouth, the board for certification of genealogists. So remember, like, this is always what we're looking at. We're looking at like verifiable citations. Sorry, I'm so tired today. Anyway, so make sure that everything can be verified. Okay. And then finally, just remember that AI is a powerful tool, but it will never replace the reliable historian or the human reliable historian. So I want you to know that while AI is a powerful tool that we can often use and help us fill in gaps and find things much quicker, can help us do things much faster, it is still very much a tool that is just that. It's just a tool. It doesn't replace a human, and it will not replace your ability to critically think about the citations and things that need to be verified. Okay. So always follow up. If you have any questions, you're welcome to find me at printpro.com. That's where you can find me. I am always teaching about the writing life and the publishing world, and that's where I kind of focus. But like I said, my mother is a genealogist, and she wanted me to help kind of share a little bit about what I know about AI today with a lot of the genealogical patrons, so that they can understand and know how this works and how to be careful with that going forward. So I hope this was helpful for you. And I wish you guys the best in your research. See you later.